Hello, and you're very welcome to another edition of the JMac Podcast. I'm John McMahon, and of course, guys, this podcast is sponsored by OrgaRetro.com. Check the website out for all your retro gear needs and wants. And I've a treat for you today, guys. I'm joined by two great Cavan men, two great Gowna men in Ger Pearson and Mark McKeever. How's things, boys? Let's start with you, Ger. How are you getting on?
How's things? Not too bad, John. Enjoying the weather.
Happy days. Happy days. Yourself, Mark, how are you?
Yeah, great. Not a lot.
Happy days. And so we'll start with you, Ger, yourself. You're obviously on the front line, you're telling me, and you're very busy with that. So how have you found last year and everything goes with it, Mark, or Ger even?
Look, it's, I suppose, just strange times for everyone. As I say, I'm working the front line at the minute, and look, I think everyone's cheesed off at this stage, you know. Everyone wants to get back to some sort of normality, whether it's go to watch a match, an underage game, you know, ladies' game, a men's game. I think that's just everyone's looking forward to at this stage regarding the GA, but mental health and everything, you know, everyone just wants to just try and get back to some sort of normality, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose has it changed your perspective on a lot of stuff as well, Ger? Like, you know, it's completely unforeseen stuff. You know, we're all locked away and there's not much to do. Can't even meet the lads and kick points or nothing, and go to a restaurant, nothing really, Ger. So how has it changed your perspective on a lot of things?
I suppose from my own point of view, just the start of the lockdown, my uncle passed away, and then I suppose back in July, my father passed away. And when you'd see the funeral, I suppose, you know, like we were up in St. Peregrine's in Dublin, and they had a great guard of honour for my uncle. He's a Gowna man, but he was living up there. Then you come down, my own father passed away, and you know, when you step into the chapel and you only see so many people in it, you know, like, and then the guard of honour outside, it's, you know, the calls, texts that people can't attend, you know, like, it's I suppose it just makes us realise how short life can be, and, you know, when you see the lockdown here, nobody can do anything, you know. So I suppose it just puts everything in perspective, you know. Life can be very short. So you know, like, the amount of people, my own wife, both her parents were in ICU unit with the COVID as well. So I suppose firsthand, I seen a lot of it, you know, like.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose I'm integrated all into a kind of podcast at the minute, Ger, but I suppose as I was referencing, there's no restaurants, pubs, absolutely nothing really going on. So I suppose how important is it to talk in these times, Ger, and kind of pick up the phone, ring that old teammate and just have a chat with someone, and just it'd lift their mood for the day, and just to check in with them, I suppose, Ger?
Yeah, trying to get hold of this McKeever man. I'm afraid every time I contact him, might do a 5K or something, you know. I tend to avoid a lot of them, you know.
Absolutely.
It is great to keep in contact. Obviously, you know, like, it's a bit of a disaster with no train or anything going on. Like, you know, listen, we've all got a field, or I'm lucky enough, I suppose, there's a handball alley beside my house that, you know, you can go down there, you know, and there's no one about and knock the ball about on your own. But, you know, it is a bit of a mess, all right, if you can't meet up with your mates. You know, like, a bit of a kick around, like, you know, it would mean the world to everyone to do it. As I say, don't worry, I'll be giving out when the thing is lifted and the training's going on. I'll be giving it, like, back then, you know.
Absolutely. And yourself, Mark, you're obviously flat out with work, and I suppose, how have you found the last year? Like, I'd be on and off to you anyway, chatting away, but how have you found the last year and everything? Has it given you a different perspective and stuff?
Yeah, I suppose it has. It's been very different, I suppose, too. Like, I suppose if I was more than Ger there, you know, if you were probably at the other side of the coin, where you're probably about, you know, 2021, I'm sure you'd be finding it a lot more difficult. I suppose the fact that two of us are working away, we're sort of kept busy at that, and then, you know, family life and stuff keeps you busy as well. So I suppose that's keeping us sort of going, and you find your priorities probably change a little bit, where you'd be rushing out to training other years. You probably have that extra hour or two with the kids at home and that sort of stuff. So, you know, That's probably a good thing, you know, for us to have, that we're not rushing out to train or doing anything like that. But then again, like that too, you know, if it was back when we were 19, 20, like, all you want to do is get out there and kick ball, and even like go out and have a couple of pints or whatever it is with the boys and that sort of crack. And I know we miss that now, where you would like to go and have one or two and it's more for the chat or anything like that, to get the social aspect of it. But that not happening, I suppose we're gaining a little bit more with family life, I suppose, a little bit like that, and things have settled down. Our priorities probably have changed a little bit over the years, and that's where we're probably, turning to that. So it's grand sort of now, but I would definitely say that, the younger members of the community and football team, that I'm sure they are finding it very, very tough, like, too.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose, as I was saying to Ger, like, Mark, how important is it to kind of, I suppose, ring the likes of Ger Pearson, former teammates, granddads, anyone at all, because we are locked away and, we can't really meet, as you were saying, meet people face to face.
Yeah, I suppose, funny enough, like, I've been chatting to a few boys, and lads you be chatting all the time, and funny enough, the calls are getting maybe shorter and shorter the last while, because like that too, you would have been ringing maybe, after the weekend and checking out what the boys were up to the weekend and what the crack was and all. And funny enough, we're seem to be getting, the calls are a lot shorter. The crack is very limited. It's same old. What did you do? Go for a walk? Same sort of thing. So, but still, it's nice to, even that 2-3 minute chat that you're getting in contact with someone, is a huge help. Like, whereas, as I was saying, other times you might be talking for 15-20 minutes and that sort of crack. Whereas now it's probably only a 2 or 3 minute call and see how you're getting on and that sort of crack. Like, but at least it's important just to check in with everyone, make sure everyone's sort of still keeping their head over water and that sort of crack going on, and seeing how they are, and, as you say, mental health wise and everything like that too. You need to be, especially, as I said, them younger lads that normally had the outlet of meeting up with all their friends and going out and different stuff like that. They're probably finding it a little bit tough, or probably living at home or stuff like that, sort of maybe cracking up a little bit, not getting out. So
yeah, definitely, I agree with all that. And I suppose we can touch on to the football end of things as well. So Ger, obviously you would have represented Cavan from 2001 to 2011, and obviously the Gowna footballers from 98 and the present day. You've won 3 senior county championships with Gowna as well. Very sought after. So I suppose, Ger, touching on to your Gowna days first, 98, breaking on to that very successful Gowna team back in the day. What was it all like for you, Ger?
I suppose breaking on to the Gowna team was the big thing for me. Mark will tell you there, like, when he came through, we had Eamonn Coleman was here, and I suppose we grew up, our fathers probably bringing us up to Whites or Fitches to watch All Ireland finals. Do you know what I mean? When we were young, and you're watching this fella on the TV, and next thing he's bringing us out to training. So when you kind of hit 14, 15 in Gowna, like, you were, well, I know from 10 years of age, my father used to bring me out to the field, and you'd be running around kicking the balls out to the lads, and the next thing is you're 14, 15, and Eamonn Coleman's asking you to train, and you're going out with Barney Morris and McCabe and the Hart brothers. It was I suppose back when we got a jersey first, I'm sure Mark's the same. You remember the first day you got a jersey. Like, I remember playing Killincare in a league match in a real hot day back in '88, and just things like that stick with you. It was an honour back then. Down were top dogs, and just to get in and be part of it was amazing. But I suppose back then we were top dogs, and you were looking forward to getting stuck in the senior championships. When by the time we were 21, I'd played 4 or 5 finals, and I suppose it dried up after that. But like, when we started off, it was an honour. It was just a dream come true to get your Gowna jersey and hold on to it, because there's so much competition for places.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose we kind of remark on the players as well. Obviously, Mark and Darren McCabe and Bernard Morris and Kieran Brady and all them. Like, what was it like kind of play with them gents over the years, Ger? Like, and obviously that's going to make a serious impact on yourself, bring you on as a player, and kind of gave you the career you really had.
Yeah, like, I suppose when I came into it, I suppose for me, Mark and like Niall Madden and Patrick Brady, like, going at it back around 98, 99, 2000. With great influx of players, we brought in probably 6 young lads, as I say, and we all kind of gelled in well. But I suppose football was different to what it is now. Like, I would have been inside with McCabe a lot of the time. You had lads like Sean Pearson, lads like this Christy Madden putting the ball into you. And I suppose the idea was get it into the inside line as quick as they could, and it was good ball coming into us, and it was great to play. Like, when you go out and maybe get a ball or try and sell a dummy, or But I suppose compared to nowadays, it's, you know, I'd find that there's so many people dropping back, you know, it's harder, I suppose, to make a bit of space even when you be watching it now. Like, it is a different ball game, you know. But as I say, we had a great team back then, you know what I mean. And it was, I suppose, we went through a transition period now this last long time, you know. Like, we're still clinging on there, you know what I mean. Hopefully now we're going to push on with a great young team coming through again, you know. Like.
Yeah. And I suppose it's kind of them early years, I always reference what podcast I'm doing. Like, what was it like to kind of play in the likes of 02, 03, and like them kind of successful years for Gowna, Ger, like, because, you know, before all this kind of defensive kind of crack came in, you know, enjoyable times and a nice brand of football.
John, I don't know what happened. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go on ahead. Yeah. You got Ger? Go on. I can hear you. Go on ahead.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, just repeat that last question. Sorry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, just them early years, Ger, kind of playing for Gowna, like, and I suppose before all this kind of defensive kind of football came in, what was it like to kind of play in them nice brand of attacking football, all out attack, and just before all this kind of defensive kind of football came in, Ger, because I'm presuming you were kind of like an all out attack player.
Well, I suppose what I used to remember, and what I used to remember about the whole lot was that when you went out to train with Gowna first, traffic come by my house. What I used to remember was at training was the slap. I just used to remember the ball would be kicked down the middle of the field, and you probably had Paddy Brady, Fergal Harton, Dermot McCabe, you know, I suppose Bernard Morris. The middle of the field was a dangerous place to go around Gowna when I started out, you know. But when that ball came down, I suppose what used to be in my head straight away as a corner forward was just, you just couldn't wait to see the like of, as I say, said Sean Pearson, but lads like this would put the ball bouncing in front of you, like, you know. It was a joy, I suppose, to play with, you know what I mean. Even McCabe getting the ball there, and, you know, these were brainy fellas that looked up and knew how to use space. But it's about first thing in your mind was straight away just get out in front. And normally when you get out in front, that ball was let into you, you know, like, and it was, I suppose you had that bit of time to go on a lad if you won it in front. As I say, nowadays you win it in front and you turn around and there's 4 people facing you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I suppose kind of the 3 championship medals as well, Ger, like, and I suppose, as we were kind of saying off air before, probably Calvin Gales kind of came in very strong. But what was it like to kind of get your hands on them medals? Because, Ger, like, at the end of the day, that's what you train for. That's what you kind of train them cold winter nights in January. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, I suppose. I remember the Gowna had been better in '98. Calvin Gales beat us in the quarter final, I suppose. And it was my first time in a dressing room, I suppose. And I just remember the gut feeling that everyone was pissed off, and you know, you nearly said this wasn't going to happen again. And then '99 we came through, and I remember we played Kingscourt in the final. Like, you know, a lot of good players in that Kingscourt team as well, like Philly Smith, Mossy Malone, Ryan McCormick, you know. And I remember coming back into the village that night, and Terry Harton captained the team that day, and he scored. I think he actually got the point that won it for us that day. And I remember him sitting beside him coming back in the bus, and him saying, "Now it's left to you boys, you know, after this." And yeah. I suppose it was, and it went well for another 3 or 4, probably 5 years. But you know, we got another two medals after that, myself and Mark. You know, and you just treasure them now, and you see, like, it's 2002 was our last one, and got to find in 07. Like, it's a long time to go without a bit of silverware, you know. So look at the treasure things, you know, like, and it's, when you look back in the memories now and you see the pictures, your parents with you, and you know, your friends, and, you know, they are treasure things. Like, and some of the best footballers in Cavan haven't got a senior championship medal, you know. So I suppose we're blessed, definitely blessed to have it, you know, like. Yeah, and I suppose how competitive was the early years in Cavan football, say, like in the early noughties, Ger, like, and as you were kind of alluding to it, like your last appearance in the senior championship was like 2007, so that kind of speaks volumes about how high the standard has got in recent years, Ger. Look, when we started off, you know, like, I remember my first Mullahoran Gowna match above in Mullahoran, like, the crowd was huge, like, it was ding dust, like, they'd be just, you know, Dan Danny the Gunner and Paul the Gunner, Danny Mell, you know, Nobby Smith, Shawnee Smith, all these lads. It was just, you know, Shawnee the Gunner. It was absolutely ding dust, you know, like from head to toe. And I suppose, you know, then you'd teams like Grammar there, Paddy McNee and Shane Cole and Ray Cole, and everything was competitive. Even I remember, like, we played then a couple of quarterfinals, you know, touch and go, just get over the line. I thought football, I suppose, was a lot more competitive back then. You know, like, there was a number of teams were all challenging. Crushallock had a good team back then, and he lost a lot of people to emigration. You know, Paddy Tomo and all these lads. You know, like, they had quite a good team back then, and, you know, just never got over the line. And I suppose we were lucky enough in emigration as well. We never lost anyone, really. You know, like, even for summers, you know, no one. I don't think we ever lost a player to America for summer, and so that was a big bonus as well. You know, like.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose the best thing I can probably ask you is, like, what do you feel, say, in the last couple of years has maybe been, I know what Cavan Gales have really stepped in and Castlerahan, but what do you feel the last few years has happened, Ger? Like, you know, Gowna's kind of lack of presence in obviously senior championship finals or that. I know he's got the semi-finals, but what do you feel has maybe been the problem, Ger?
Well, look, you know, I suppose 02, that Cavan Gales team, look, it came along. That was like, that was a fantastic team, you know, with Shawnee Smith, Ling, Chesty Riley, Dominic, you know, you could go on, Nelligan, you know, like, it's Darren Rabbit. It was, like, you know, they had quality all over the place. James Doonan, Anthony Ford, Mickey Graham, like that, they came in, I suppose, and we probably held our own till maybe 04, 05 with them, and Mullahorn had a good team come along then. But, you know, in 02, a lot of our lads, the Bernard Morrises and the Lawrence Brady's and these lads, these were probably 35, 36, you know what I mean? And they were, I suppose, clinging on then and waiting for the young lads to come through. And I suppose we brought 5 or 6 lads on between 2000, 2002 or 3, but essentially after that, we weren't bringing on enough players after that, and just weren't there. And, you know what I mean, not to the calibre of what we had, I suppose. You know what I mean? It's hard to replace the like of Bernard Morris and Derek McCabe and Kieran Brady and these lads, you know. But I suppose for the last 10 or 15 years, I suppose, a lot of Gowna people, you know, we mightn't like to admit it, but a lot of us clinging on for dear life at senior championship level, you know. And that man on the other side of the screen was one of the main reasons why we are still senior championship. You know, like, there was a lot of games there. I suppose you went from winning senior championships just to just scraping through in relegation playoffs. You know, like, I remember a couple of relegation playoffs, that man just dragged us through. You know what I mean? Conor Madden kicked a wonder point, I think, from 50 yards out, 60 yards off the ground, to keep a senior championship another year. Do you know, like, it was them small things. And I suppose, to be honest, I think it was a fantastic achievement to stay senior all them years. And now, I suppose, now you're looking out, we're going out training there, and you have the Conor Maddens, you have the Conor Bradys, you have Oisin Pearsons, and I suppose we're playing with a lot of lads who we would have played with their fathers, you know what I mean? It's great, like, Fergal Harton's young is out there now, Joe Brady's, like Sean Pearson, Oisin's, you know, Conor Brady, Aaron Brady, all the lads me and Mark would have started with, we're still there with all their sons now, you know, trying to wrangle for a place with them, you know. So but I definitely think the future is bright for us now. You know, we have a great, see, like, there, you know, like, you see the numbers, like, with WhatsApp, you know, you see the numbers and the names on it. I think, you know, like, the future is bright if we can get it right, and hopefully we don't lose too many to immigration, you know.
Yeah, and it can touch on some of them players as well, the likes of Conor Madden, as you were saying, and Oisin Pearson and Conor Brady and all them. So, like, like, I suppose Gowna football is in a good place at the minute, yeah.
Listen, you know, as I say, me and Mark have seen both sides of it. You know, we've seen the nights, and we've come in from Bellagna and stopped in Seamus Brady's with the cup, and, you know, we came through, I suppose, Middleton Cross and Mullahorn and back into Gowna. We've seen them times, we've seen the lean times as well, you know, where nights of training there, and it's, you know, as I say, you're trying to avoid relegation now, but the last year or two, I suppose, last 5 years, Mark will tell you, like, every year you're looking at their new faces coming out, more young fellas, and, you know, some of them are fantastic footballers. You go to training there, like, and you see, I suppose, Conor Madden galloping up the field, and Conor Brady and Oisin Pearson, and, you know, like, they're only the county lads, like, you know, there's other lads there, like, fantastic footballers, like, you have Robbie Fitch there in the middle of the field, and even his brother TJ, you know, like, it's, you know, we've some great young fellas come along there, like, fantastic, you know, like, I see now last year, was before the lockdown happened. You know, like even lads out in the gym build themselves up. You know, like I suppose it's a new era that's heralding in, and hopefully we can handle it right. You know. Yeah,
I suppose what kind of have you made of? I suppose playing for Gowna over the years is probably the most enjoyable times of your life, really. And kind of when you look back on kind of the early years, like what was it like kind of playing like the Cavan Club Championship against the likes of Mulahern, Cavan Gales, Castlereagh, like when it came around to championship time, Ger, that's when you were testing yourself against the best.
Yeah, look, I suppose with Gowna back then, and I suppose it's an arrogant thing. Look at, I remember trying in '98, we went out, and it was a bit of arrogance, I suppose, that you got into that dressing room, and there was just a mentality that, no one was going to beat us, and that's the way it was. And I suppose, Mark will tell you there, you just walked into the dressing room and you look around, and there was just monsters men all around you. Like they're all 6'1" and hard men, you know what I mean? Like, but we just had this mentality that we weren't going to be bet. And I remember 2002, Mark will tell you, we played Belturbet in the first round of the championship in Kilishandra, small wee dressing room there at the time. And I think Jason, you remember that, Mark? Jason, I think, bagged 3 goals on us. And we came in after it. Eamonn Coleman sat us down. An hour and I think it was 20 minutes later, we left that dressing room. Needless to say, most of our jocks were brown, but he absolutely went through us for a shortcut. And from the moment we stepped out that door in Kilishandra, I think any of the players will now admit that we knew we weren't going to be bet again that year. You know what I mean? The Cavan Senior Championship. No, we were. We got such a lacerating from Coleman. It was unbelievable. But walking out the dressing room, like I remember the morning, we're up in the village going, and we were playing a Cavan Gales team. I think they bet Mulahern by something like 18 or 19 points in the semi-final, and everyone knew the training. You just knew the way training was going. Everyone knew that we were going to take them, and that day everything went right for us, and we did take them, and bet them well enough. Like, and that was as I say, a Cavan Gales team that went on, I suppose, to dominate for nearly a decade after it.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose Eamonn Coleman as well, Ger, and just a fantastic man. Everyone always sings his praises. Made a huge impact on GA and a lot of players' life. I can always remember him telling Keane Mackey's story about Keane Mackey wore these soccer boots to a game, and I think he just had to throw them in the bin because Eamonn did not approve of them. So stories like that, a stern man, Ger, and we put the fear of God into you.
Yeah, Eamonn Coleman was. He was. I suppose I had him for most of my career with Gowna and with Cavan. I worked with him for a wee bit as well. I lived down the road from him. I used to be calling him a good bit. He was a larger than life character, but he was a great man manager. Eamonn Coleman would get the most out of an average footballer. He would put an average footballer, find that extra gear for Eamonn Coleman. I don't know, Mark, do you remember the time with Paul O'Dowd in the dressing room? Was the first training of the year. It was Eamonn Coleman's first training of the year. And he brought us out to the army barracks in Cavan. And so me and Mark, we knew that. You know the story, Mark?
Yeah. I want you to tell it, though.
Some of this we said live on air, but listen, we were in the army barracks, and it was we were starting these gym sessions, and the whole circuits were set up for us. But Coleman was giving this big talk. He was giving this big talk to everyone in the room, and so myself and Mark, we had heard these rousing speeches from him before, but he started on about saying, getting that Ulster title. He says it was nearly like getting a woman. He says you'll train hard. He says, and you will train 3 nights a week. He says, like you will. He says, call that woman. He says you chase after her. He says. And he says, like, winning an Ulster title, he says, when you get that woman, he says, it'll be worth it, he says. But Paul O'Dowd was sitting beside me, and I'd never met Paul O'Dowd before. And I suppose growing up, Paul O'Dowd would have been a bit of a hero of ours. He was the goalie for Cavan, and he had the crest shaved into his head and everything, and into his hair for Ulster final. Paul O'Dowd was sitting beside me, and he stuck his hand up. And Eamonn Coleman, when he was giving you an inspirational speech, he was really going at it. And you could hear a pin drop. And Eamonn was there telling about this Ulster title. He says, lads, when you get it, he says, it'll be like getting that woman. It'll be all worth it, he says. And O'Dowd stuck his hand up beside me, and he goes, he says, Eamonn, where I'm from, he says, that's called rape, he said. just ran it to the dressing room like dogs. So, you know, but he had a great side to him like that. You know, he seen the funny side and stuff, but he was a great man manager as well. Like, you know, he'd see if you had a problem or something was at you, he'd pull you aside. You know what I mean? He's a fantastic football man in every sense, you know.
Yeah, definitely. No better tribute. And I suppose you're still obviously playing for Gowna. You're as you're saying to me off air, you're hanging in there. So what's it kind of like to kind of give the younger lads a bit of a hand, Ger? And I suppose are you happy with the kind of current product of that full forward line?
Yeah. I suppose at times I'd be happy if they weren't as good as they were. I might get a game, you know. But I suppose you're probably clinging on to that thing. You'd like to leave it in as good a shape as you can, you know. And I suppose, look, at times, I suppose my game would have changed a bit, you know what I mean, when I was younger. I suppose a lot of pace, and as you go older, you know, you lose that yard of pace, so I'd probably rely on a bit of physical strength now. But at times, you know, like when you're playing full forward, I suppose it's probably an easier place to play for an older man, you know what I mean, or an older player. I would tend to try and control it a bit maybe and try and bring young fellas into it, you know what I mean? Try to make a bit of space for them or show them where to run, you know, or what runs I'd be making, you know, like, so I'd enjoy that kind of a sense of thing, you know, but I suppose slowly but surely, I think the way the GA is gone, that marquee forward, I suppose, is being pushed out of the game a little bit, you know, like, it's got so defensive, you know, in a sense, I suppose, like, I would go to a match, if someone told me there was no matter where the match was, it was in Killishan or Templefort, if there was a good young fella playing there, soling off the left or right, knocking over the bar, I'd go to see that, you know what I mean? And I suppose that, I feel that's going out of the game a little bit, the way it's been played now, you know, so that's why I kind of hang in there, maybe show a young fella, maybe, you know, you might make a bit of space by doing this to allow them to do that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose the most recent kind of championship gone in, and we've seen a great county final. Like me and Mark were previewing it before, and so it was 2020. What did you make of Gowna's year in 2020? Like, you weren't far away, and he's a very good panel of players. So definitely, I do feel, probably from your point of view as well, that you are knocking on the door.
Yeah, we are knocking the door. We lost Conor Brady, got a bad injury and stuff, you know. But as I say, we're probably short a couple of players. You know what I mean? One or two players, and this year now, I see we've another 3 or 4 influx off it. You know, they're 17 years of age, like, coming in, but you know, there's no problem now. 17-year-old now, the way the gym sessions are going, like, they're every bit as strong as a 20 or 21-year-old. You know, so I reckon, you know, these lads pushing on. You know, we're not that far away, as I say. I suppose Crusher are probably development wise maybe a year or two ahead of us now. You know, like, but I don't think we're far away. But listen, you still have Castlerahan, you know, the Gales will be back strong, you know, like King's Courts, you know, I think it'll be a competitive championship in Cavan this year, you know.
Yeah, well, just let's hope so, and let's hope we get one as soon as possible. And I suppose, Ger, we can kind of touch on to your Cavan days as well. You broke on in 2001. You represented Cavan for a solid 10 years, Ger. So what did you make of the kind of transition onto the Cavan team, and obviously very strong Cavan team in 2001?
Yeah, I came into it. I remember Bernard Morris bringing me to training, and Fergal Harkin was in it. You know, like, just I suppose you're going in, you're being in awe. I remember running around Kilgary one night, and Fintan Cahill and all these fellas. You would have been, you know, looking at, I suppose, on the telly, and when your outfit would be bringing you into a match, that would bring me in. You know, you'd be looking at these lads playing. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I suppose. Look, we came in an era there. You know, Tyrone and Armagh were very strong at the time. Like, you know, we met them a few times in semi-finals and stuff. And look at, you know, that was a great, I suppose, Armagh team and a great Tyrone team as well, you know. So, like, looking back at it now, like, we had a really good Cavan team, you know, like, it's a lot of quality all over, but we didn't get over the mark there. And I suppose, from my own sense, I probably didn't get as much out of myself as I should have. I'd done the crucial a couple of times as well now, but I suppose, looking back now, I'd have a little bit of regret that I didn't, you know, I suppose, put a bigger effort in, you know what I mean? You know, maybe, you know, could have maybe pushed on a little bit harder than I did. But I suppose you look at Mark there, like, you know, he did I suppose, a longer career than myself with Cavan, and I suppose he got everything he could out of himself. You know, I probably didn't knuckle down as hard as I should have. You know, like, that'd be another thing that'd be trying to push into any of these Gowna boys coming through now. You know, it goes in a heartbeat. You know, like, one minute you're enjoying things, you're pulling on the jersey, and the next minute you're just barely making around and doing the laps, you know. So, but yeah, look, I enjoyed most of my time in Cavan. I enjoyed it, but now we had a couple of near ones where we nearly got over the line to get Ulster finals, you know, but it just didn't happen, you know. But like, you had some great players, and you know, from all around, even Pearson, McKenna, all these lads, you know. I think we had a really good team. It's just unfortunate to say that really good Armagh Tyrone team were knocking around at the time, you know.
Yeah, of course, guys. This podcast is sponsored by OrgaRetro.com. Check the website for all your retro gear needs. And I suppose, Ger, the early 2000s, you came up against unbelievable Tyrone and Armagh teams. Like, and what was it like to kind of come up against them teams? The Clone is very physical games, Ger.
Yeah, it's the tempo. I suppose you'd go from club football, like, you know, making a transition from club football. I remember my first game was I marked a fella called Michael Lilly from Enniskillen in Gales, and I remember Val Andrews, probably was 17 or 18. Val Andrews, the manager at the time. I remember him after the game saying, "Look at you, how do you think you done?" And I knew myself, but I wasn't great, you know. Like I got a bit of abuse from a Cavan supporter coming in after the match, and you know, like I'm probably 17, 18 at the time. But Val spoke to me after, and he said, "Look at Jerry," he told me that he says things you have to up it. But I remember Michael Lilly. I remember going for a ball, which normally at club level, you know, you would pick it up and gone with it. And I went to pick it up and thought it was gone with it, and Michael Lilly hit me such a rap. I went spinning, the ball went down the field, and I realised at that moment, you know, it was just a faster pace of things. And I suppose when you come up against the Armaghs as well, like they were that physically strong around the field, you know, when they hit you, you knew about it, you know, like even before the match, you know, and the Tyrones, you'd come down and meet you, you'd get that solid shoulder. Like I suppose they had that physical training. They were the start of the, you know, the big, strong, hefty teams, you know.
Yeah, I suppose when you kind of look back on the Ger, like, and you're kind of saying about your effort into the Cavan and all, but like, do you feel you did underachieve over the years? Because like, I know I said Ronan Flanagan there a couple of weeks ago, like, he's definitely had a panel capable of winning a couple of Ulster titles in them early years, Ger.
Oh, well, I suppose I would have come in at the end at Ronan's there, and I kind of was probably 28, 29, 27, 28, 29, and I knew myself the gig was up for me at that stage. I just, you know, I probably hadn't put in the work and stuff. But in the earlier years, you know, when Mark was starting, we'd Anthony Gaynor there, we'd McCabe, I said the Pearson McKenna, you had great Gales contingent there, Carl Collins, Mickey Graham, Anthony Ford, you know, like that's Swan LeBar, Thomas Pryor, them. I thought we had a fantastic team, you know, Larry Riley, Peter Riley. Definitely in my eyes, when I look at the team now and you look on a team sheet, Jason, these boys, you know, like, you're definitely good enough to win an Ulster title. Like, you know, as I say, I keep coming back. I remember, was it 4 or 5 mark against Armagh, you know, like, should have got over the line, and just a few bits and pieces didn't go our way, you know, like, but like, they were really good. Like Aaron Donoghue in the goals, you know, like James Riley took over from him. Like, you know, we had a really good team back then. Darren Rabbit at full back, and I felt that. Looking back now, definitely we should have got to a challenge for Ulster title. You know, but listen, you know, that's where the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I suppose them kind of early years as well, Ger. Like, I know we were remarking on the defence football. It maybe not in club football, it wasn't as bad. But what's like kind of playing them early years? Like, in, I suppose in Clones, Breffni Park, anywhere at all, Ger, and just enjoy playing the county football. And I suppose that's what you've always dreamed of.
Yeah. Look, you know, it's fantastic. You know, Breffni's is a great place. Like, it's so big, and as I say, even during the lockdown now, like, you know, we went to some of the matches last year, you know, and there's no crowd there or nothing. Like, you know, players, you need the crowd around you. You know what I mean? To sell that dummy or to kick that ball over, drop kick it, or you know what I mean, and that's the crowd is there for. And they appreciate that. You know what I mean? They appreciate when they see good football. And now, you know, the middle of this lockdown, and it's like, we played a couple of matches there in Breffni this year, and nobody there. It's you feel sorry for, you know, lads in the field, you know, even managers trying to get players jizzed up, but definitely back in the day when you'd go into Breffni, and the supporters in Cavan, like, you know, they're a fantastic bunch. Like, when they see good football, or they see, you know, good football, or they appreciate it, they see high catch middle of the field, or a good score, like, they really appreciate it, and you know, I suppose it's a great feeling, like, it's a great buzz, and that's you know what I mean. I'd be chatting to Oisin Pearson, a cousin of mine, you know, to see him with Cavan now, you know, and I just to be telling him to enjoy every minute of it, because it ends very quickly, you know. When it's gone, you know, like, that's it over. But definitely the Cavan supporters, you have to say, like Mark will tell you, when things are going well, like, they're a great bunch, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I suppose. And how did you find the juggling act with Cavan again over the years, Ger? Like, and I suppose the training, that elite kind of attitude kind of brought to your life.
I wish that I wish they brought a bit more of it back to Gowna when it was coming. But yeah, it was. Look at, you were coming from. I suppose I remember my first year or two at Gowna when Bernard Morris and Kieran Brady and McCabe came back to training. You could see the whole thing lifting, like they just brought that extra pace to it. And I suppose myself and Mark and Dermot were in there and that, for a good few years together. And like just when you come back, you need to be standing out. That's the way I look at it. The way I look at, I suppose, coming back is that if you're a county under 16 or a minor or under 21 or a senior, my opinion is that you should be standing out. You should be coming into a senior league match in Cavan and you should be able to pick them out. You know what I mean? So I suppose coming back to Gowna, when we were coming back there, I suppose we were still challenging for things. So it was, we still had good numbers and good players there. Do you know what I mean? So it was, I suppose, an easy transition back into the Gowna thing.
Yeah, I suppose kind of came to 2010 or 2011. I suppose, Ger, what was the kind of, suppose, your reason for maybe stepping away? Or did you feel like you had enough with the Cavan setup?
No, look, as I said before, I probably didn't put in enough effort. Well, I didn't put in enough effort, and that was it. Look, I was, I was 28, 27, 28, 29. I knew myself I was done. The way it's county football was just, going at that stage. You need to be really, getting to the gym. And I suppose I was in the building sites at the time. And the recession, I suppose, in 2010, I spent a bit of time in London. The recession had hit, you know what I mean? And, money and I suppose jobs weren't that plentiful at the time, So, but I knew myself around 2010, 11 that I was done at that level. I just hadn't, I suppose I hadn't the legs that you need for county football at that stage, But yeah, that was it, I knew the time was up, so you can't hang around too long, and county football's a lonely place when you're not able to play it anymore.
Yeah, definitely. That's super stuff, Jared. We can move on to yourself, Mark. You're represented and started with Gowna in '99. You're still playing, and you represented Cavan from 2003 to 2015, and you have 3 championship medals with Gowna, Mark. So 1999, Mark McKeever got the ball rolling with Gowna.
Yeah, suppose I was lucky enough to come in, I was only a young lad, but like that too, come into a team that was full of, serious players, and I suppose my first couple of years, there was no pressure on you at all, and it was made quite clear by Eamonn and all the other players around, Vernon Morris, Kieran Brady, Dermot McCabe, and them boys, that there was no pressure on you. You just go and, do your little bit. We look after the rest. And in fairness to them, you're never put under that pressure. And it felt like you could just go out and express yourself a little bit. And like that too, there was no fear of, right, you're going to get took off because you're playing poor or whatever. If you were took off, you're nearly praised more so as well, and that sort of stuff. So at least, to seeing that and allowed for you to come in and no pressure on you to perform. So it was a very easy way to get started off. And especially, I know I had been at the Tan Cavan Gales Beatles, I think it was semi-final or quarter-final the year before, 98, as Gerald was saying there. That was hurt. And I remember being at that game and thinking, obviously not thinking I was going to be anywhere near a senior team the next year, not even in my head. But when you got back into that team straight away, you just were thinking, right, okay, something's going to happen here, because obviously the Gowna tradition, I had grown up seeing them in county finals in 93, 94, and on the 96, winning 96 and 97. And it would have been at all those games thinking, Gowna's history is massive here. And then, that still was part of it, of course, in 99. We were still sort of on that trail. That same team was competing again for, some of them have 7 championship medals, Kieran Brady, Vernon Morris, and a few boys like that. So it felt like it was going to go on forever. So it's going to continue. This is the way it is. And I suppose for me, getting in there in 99, go on and win a championship in your first year obviously was great. And then in 2000, the year after, we go on and win a championship again, and just expected this to go on forever. It just was. That's what we're going to do. We get to county finals and we win them, and that's it. And then so it was 2001. we were beaten in the county final by Cavan Gales, and I suppose that was a big sort of bring down to earth for me, especially in that all right, okay, this might not go on forever. Now we were lucky enough, I suppose, that hunger got us back to winning in 2002, but then of course after that, they became fairly scarce, so you're brought back down there fairly quick from that now, and I suppose that's when coming on from probably 2002, I would have felt there was a bit more pressure on lads like myself and Gerald there, and that we were starting to take over the team a little bit, or a bit more pressure being added to us. And I suppose, it took them a couple of years for us to sort of settle into a team. And I suppose, as Gerald said there earlier on, we have a couple of 17, 18-year-olds coming through, and it's hard for them boys to come in, and that's what happened to us in the time we were in relegation battles and stuff like that. Like, we were expecting 18-year-olds to carry us over the line, because the likes of Bernard and Gavin and Fergal Hart and them boys had retired. Joe Brady had sort of retired, and then all of a sudden we had 17-year-olds trying to do the jobs they were doing. So it's very hard to ask anyone to do that, and I suppose that's why we sort of went down a little bit, that we were expecting too much of that sort of thing, and small numbers, of course, too. But I suppose that's starting to build back up again, and I suppose no more than Gerald there, that's why I suppose me and him were sort of hanging about there. You try to leave it in as good a spot as you got it in, and hopefully we get back to that. But we're just trying to make sure that them boys can, are integrated into the team, and that they're fit to carry the mantle straight away, and that we can hopefully add a little bit of experience to them, and they might learn one or two things from that. So I suppose that's why I would say we've been hanging in there for a couple of years, that most other people would say, well, sure, you're long past it, and we probably are, but in Gowna I don't think you're left retired till you're really pushed around the place in a wheelchair or something. That's about the height of it. So
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose kind of breaking on to that kind of team, as I was saying to Ger there, like it was a very, very good panel of players, Mark. So that's only going to bring you on as a player, and the kind of made you the football you were, Mark, and it's still are, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that, as I said, the pressure, not having any pressure on you, you've been told by these lads you were looking up to, are playing county senior for years, and they come over to you and say, look, no pressure on you, you just got to play your own game, just bang away, you get the ball, do what you do. Like, there was no sort of, right, give it to me, or get rid of it straight away, or just do what you do. And that allowed you to express yourself. As Gerald said there earlier in it, there were different times as well. There was a premium of space there in the forward line. It was man for man at the time, and if you went round your man, you had an acre of space in front of you, and that's what we would have, excelled at. Nowadays, I don't know what you get the same as you say. There's a load of men back. It's very hard to express yourself as a young player when there's so many, defenders around you and different stuff like that, especially as a forward. But yeah, look, at being integrated into that team, as I said, no pressure meant you could just do what you do and enjoy your football, and we did enjoy for the first couple of years there. That's all you had to do, was just go out and enjoy your football. And I think, look, at most players, any player you ask, if you're enjoying your football, you're going to play at your best.
Yeah, I suppose the 3 championship medals that you do hold, Mark, and I suppose obviously, I was saying to Jerry, your last appearance was 07. So, as Jerry was saying, what kind of just feel has been the problem in the last couple of years, and why haven't Gowna been competing at the top table?
Yeah, it's just as I said there, it was more or less like the influx of guys that was carrying Gowna for years. The likes of Joe, Fergal Hart and Gavin Hart and them boys. A few of them boys sort of retire, and you just can't. They're irreplaceable, especially boys at club level, at that level, that just knew how to get stuff done. Then and then asking a couple of younger players to come in and compete like that and keep us afloat, was a big ask for them. And I think that's how we probably, a few other teams, of course, as well, had come on and had been, were stronger and more experienced than us at that stage too, and they probably took over. But as Gerald said there, I think the most important thing for Gowna in them couple of years was that we didn't slide down to intermediate, or we didn't have to, try and fight out an intermediate championship, because like that, no more than going down to intermediate or junior, it's very hard to come straight back up out of it. And a team maybe with not that much experience, would have been even harder. Like, so I think we done very well to probably, stick it out there. And there was a couple of years where we, as Gerald said, that we just about stuck it out. But that's, I suppose that is, it's galvanised a couple of boys in the club, and a few of them younger players were saying at the time, we learned very quick from that. And, they're established players obviously in our club now. And then I suppose, of course, we got it sort of steadied up the ship a little bit, and then the influx of players now, the young lads coming through, same as when we came through in 99, 2000, 2002, like that is a big help for them boys, and that they're coming in, them boys are coming into the Gowna team, seeing that Gowna have been in, a semi-final and a quarter-final and competing at championship level. So, that's big for them too, that they don't have a huge step to make up in that. Like.
Yeah, I suppose probably to your credit as well, Mark, like I was remarking the Ger, like Castlerock, Cavan Gales, Rammer, all these teams coming through in the last few years, Mark. So, that's what you're up against. So, it's not too bad. Like, and we're getting semi-finals and quarterfinals, so he's can probably he's nearly at the top table, but obviously they're remarkable teams as well, I suppose, Mark.
Yeah, I think look, we were probably out of the loop there until the last 3 or 4 years, and probably getting just back into it now. Now you look at, you still have to. It's no good getting to quarterfinals or semi-finals. You got to be winning them. And I suppose for years we were winning them, but now we're really fighting to get to them, and hopefully get over the line. So the semi-final a couple of years back, that was a real chance. I suppose we missed out on. We could have got to a final, and I believe at that stage we could have went on to a final. And look, you never know what had happened, but I think we do. Even though we're getting to semi-finals or quarter-finals, you need to get over the line on them, and you need to be making them count, because as we have seen, we did that in our early careers, and then for a long number of years in the middle there, you don't get to them, and next thing all of a sudden it's a very lonely place. So it's no good getting to them and saying that we could have won this or whatever. So we need to be, as a Gowna team, I suppose we need to be winning semi-finals and getting to finals again, which, as I said, we haven't done in a number of years. 2007 being the last final you get to, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. So it's the same to Ger, like what do you make of this current standard of the Gowna team? Obviously, Conor Madden, O'Sheen, and Conor Brady lead the line. So are you like obviously you're still part of things and kind of giving a hand, but like, are you happy with the current state of affairs with Gowna?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they're right up there, and they're good lads as well as being obviously very good players. They're great attitude to the game and stuff like that too. Like, so they're going to be around for a long time, and they're great club men as well. Like, they live for Gowna too. So it's great to see that, and that's they're probably making a big name for themselves in Cavan there as well. So as well as that, like, that'll help bring young lads on in Gowna too. So it can only be good for Gowna when you see them boys, playing at the highest level. You've seen a few of them playing in Croke Park there, a couple of months back. So, any lad that comes out and wants to train, they'd be mad. A couple of young lads there, be mad to get onto a Gowna team to get playing alongside the Conor Maddens and that. The same way as myself and Gerald was the same for, mad to get playing alongside Bernard Morris, Kieran Brady. I remember we played an under-12 final, and the biggest thing for me in an under-12 final was that we had, a lot of our heroes, which was all them boys at that under-12 final. They were there, cheering us on, and we thought this was the biggest thing, ever for all of the young players. Like, so, obviously younger players in the club is going to look up to that. They're going to see the Conor Maddens and Conor Brady coming on and everything like that, and winning also finals too, which is a huge thing. Like, and the backing that our club would give them boys from underage level on that was huge. Like,
yeah, definitely, and hopefully long may it continue. And so we can touch on Eamonn Coleman as well, Mark, and obviously Jared, great stories about him. So I suppose if you'd like to pay tribute to the great man himself.
Yeah, he was definitely unique. I'll tell you that. He was I don't think there has been a better man manager around. Like he is. Like you talk about tactics and different stuff and different managers, and look, we would have seen a lot of managers in our time, but no one could handle a variety of different men like Eamonn could. Like if you can see Bernard Morris and Darren McCabe, you know, afraid of a man that was, I don't know, was he 5'3" or 4, like, you know, and them boys were afraid of it all the time. Like, so it just shows the presence and everything he had, and the way he could go about it. Like you could see him, you know, giving out to somebody in the corner there, drag someone over to the corner and give them a bit of an aid in the training, you know, that they're not putting it in or whatever. And then 2 minutes later, he's making a joke to someone else and having the crack with them. He just knew how to handle lads, especially as was me and Ger were obviously young lads coming through at that stage, but being able to handle us, like, you know, he put his arm around us and nod to him and just say, look, you know, get your confidence up. It'll come. Don't feel any pressure. Don't worry about it. And in the meantime as well, if you're not putting the effort in, you know, you still got an 8, and like he still gave you lots. I remember actually that game in Cavan, we played Armagh that year in 2004, as Jack was saying about there. You know, I had sort of played decent enough in the first half, or I thought I were down a man, and we had all done fairly well. I remember I was sort of happy enough going in. We're still in the game, and was sort of, you know, on a personal level was playing decent enough, and I got the mother and father of all 8s at half time in that game, and literally just came out of nowhere. I remember, like, literally you'd feel, right, I have to go out and prove a point here second half, so you go at it again, like, but he knew how to you know, get the best out of everyone, and he knew that probably giving me a bit of an 8, and knowing that coming from Gowna from the years before, that was gonna spark a bit of a reaction out of me out of that. So he knew how to do that to everyone, and you know, some lads obviously got more praise when they needed it and everything that, but like that too, his little stories, his little jokes and everything like that too made him just exactly the man he was. Like, to be able to, as I said, have the fear in somebody like Dermot or some of them, and next thing all of a sudden 2 minutes later be joking and laughing with them, and still have the utmost respect for him. I think, look at as well at that, before he came to Gowna, he had won in All Ireland with Derry, so no matter what he said, I think Gowna boys were going to do whatever he said, and you just do it because you knew he was there and done that. Like, so that makes a big difference too. Like,
yeah, and I suppose we don't see many men like him around these days, Mark. Like, and I suppose no better men to ask, and he's been in the game so long at this stage. Like, why is that, you think, Mark? Like, are managers afraid to kind of adapt different approaches towards players, or what do you feel? Maybe why is that, Mark? Why aren't we seeing the likes of him and Coleman and various characters like that?
Sort of hard one to nail down, because even I think back then there wasn't too many like Eamonn around at that time either. He's just one of those guys that had just the proper temperament and the proper sort of man management, and the personality he had, I suppose, was how he reacted or you know, leveled up with players. But I suppose now it went to an era where lads would then went to maybe be a better trainer, and I've had managers that could have been very good trainers, but not being a very good man manager, whereas Eamonn was just extremely good at man management, and you know, he was a very good trainer obviously as well. But I suppose some managers maybe take on a little bit too much of what you know, you gotta play to your strengths, I suppose, like that. So if you're a good trainer, you sort of stick more to the training aspect of things, and if you're a very good man manager, you're sort of stick more to that. Like, and I think nowadays, obviously, with trainers and managers, they're two different things now. Whereas back then, you know, the manager was manager, trainer, you know, physio times or whatever it was, or you know, psychologists at that times. Now we have different men to do all those jobs. Look at football has changed an awful lot too. I suppose younger players, I'm unsure could you go and have a real cut at some young players now. It's just not the mentality they have, and rightly so. Like, you obviously can't, you know, bollock some young lads out of it, and that's where crack like this going on. But you know, you need to keep the confidence up, and that's what I see. A lot of young lads play. You know, if you have the confidence, you know, you're going to play well, as I said. so back then, it was second nature to us to get a bit of a bollocking, so it took no heat off us at all.
Yeah, definitely seems to just be a generational thing, really, Mark. And so we can touch on your Cavan days, 2003 to 2015. You're ever present for Cavan, definitely from my time watching Cavan over the years. So 2003 came knocking, Mark, and on the back of successful years at Gowna. What was it like to get the ball around with Cavan?
Yeah, it was. Actually, it was great. It was great to get the call up. Still very young, and I was just heading off to college and that at the time. And was delighted to get the call. Obviously, mad about football and mad about Cavan and watching them playing, and like that too. Like '97 would always stick out in my mind. Being up at Croke Park in '97 and just wanting to get old enough, quick enough to get in there to be able to play on places like that. I suppose when in '03 when I got the call to go in, I was only delighted to, and like that too. It was a very different place than county football is when I was finishing off there, or what it is now. It was a lot more just about raw talent and yeah, you had to train and put in the effort, but it was done at that stage. You were doing it, but it was probably 2-3 nights a week, maximum, and like that, as I said, raw talent. And if you're good enough, you were playing, and that was it. And just as you said, there's space there and everything like that. You could express yourself a lot more, where it's got to be a lot more tactical, a lot more physical, everything like that. So the demands on a county footballer now is huge. But for coming in first, it was a great honour. Couldn't wait to get playing. Obviously, the Gowna contingent was in there before me, so it was very easy for me to get in and get settled in with the boys. And one or two of Sean Johnson was in that year or the year after then as well. And so that would have been a couple of lads from my age group coming in then too. So, you got settled in fairly quick. And in fairness, the likes of Dermot, Gerald was there at the time as well. And that, so very easy for me to get in there and get stuck in straight away. Lucky enough, ended up probably getting a chance in the first couple of games to play. And lucky enough to get playing and hold down a position on it as well, which I didn't think would happen. Thought I'd get in there and take a year or two and get settled in then and maybe get starting a couple of games then. But lucky enough, got a chance and held on to it at the time, and delighted that I got that and got playing. Lucky enough to have that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose them early years of St. Ger, coming up against Armagh, Tyrone teams, warm hot summer day, and Clonus, Mark, probably the best times of your life, really.
Yeah, it's the championship days back then were something totally different. Like it was crazy. You coming out, I remember coming out Casement Park on my first championship day, 2003, and it was electric. Obviously, minor games on beforehand, the crowd was already in there. It was buzzing as you were coming on out to the field, and it just, whatever motivational talks and everything before that. That sort of nearly went out the window because you were in awe when you landed out to the field to hear the cheers and roars and everything like that. For them first couple of years especially, I found that, every day you went out, it was even better and better as it got, Cavan sport was going crazy. I suppose they had a whole pile to shout about. We weren't getting to Ulster finals and stuff, but they were still shouting on, They were creating lots of noise for us, in fairness.
Yeah, definitely, really shout it out and kind of pushing off in them years as well, Mark. Like, do you feel St. Ger as well? Like, do you feel like he's kind of did underachieve with that kind of panel of players he's had? Like, you could have probably tagged on a couple of National League titles, potentially a couple of Ulster Championship for Mark.
Yeah, I suppose you look back and we had a barren spell, and I suppose it was in our time there, and that it would have, like, I suppose at that stage, getting across the line, getting winning a final or getting to a final. Like, we got to a couple of McKenna Cup finals and lost out to Tyrone, who went on to win, I think, 7 in a row at one stage. And, if we had to even get one of them, get across the line with one of them, I think it would have added a little bit of confidence to it. And we got promoted in Division 2 a couple of years as well. I remember in 2 different Division 2 finals, and we lost out both days as well. And that wasn't for the want of trying, because we were doing everything we could to get a bit of silverware. But I think if we had a win like one of those, that might have added that little bit more. to us, and that we might have got across the line at championship level. Like the same way as probably the under 21 team that won a couple of under 21s there with Gerard and them boys. They won medals, or they won trophies in Ulster, and then they were coming into a senior panel, and that seemed to push them boys along. Now, we know it didn't happen straight away for those guys, but they're still there, and they got across the line eventually. So I do think, look, if we had to be lucky enough and win one of them McKenna Cups, or even that Division 2 sort of league final or something like that it would have kicked on a little bit more. But yeah, it definitely just felt like we needed that little tiny bit of luck or something just to get across the line. And if we had that, who's to know, we could have been there for 2 or 3 years and getting towards the finals.
Yeah, I suppose what's it like to kind of be part of some of them kind of big days? Like I seen a photo, I think it was down in Longford, I think we got promotion that day. Like even them kind of small wins, like, and it kind of makes it all worth it, kind of playing for Cavan them days, Mark.
Yeah, look, playing for Cavan was a huge honour, and always was. But on big days like that, there was nowhere else you'd want to be. Like, and as Ger said, the Cavan supporters are the best in the world. Like, they're to be in the field straight after the game and congratulating you, and they don't forget that. And being a Cavan footballer is being held in a lot of it opens up an awful lot of doors, and you go anywhere in the county, you'll say, someone will say to you, "Oh, I remember you used to play with Cavan," or whatever it was, and that's not, it's not been a big headed thing or anything like that. It's literally like, you're well known because of just playing football, and that's, it was a delight to be there, and it was an honour, obviously, to get playing. I'm so lucky to get for it to happen. So many lads, at club level, probably good enough, and maybe didn't get the chance to do that, but we were lucky enough to get in there and probably hold down a position and sort of stuff. But Cavan people have been immense down through the years and stuck with Cavan when things were not going great. The love for football in Cavan is huge, so they kept that going for us for a number of years. And I don't think, like, if you're getting abuse every day playing for Cavan and for not winning games or different stuff like that, it'd put a big dampener on it. A lot of boys wouldn't go back to play it. Like, but in fairness to them, they kept coming out and kept turning up, and they cling on to any little bit of a win or a big win we had, and promotions and stuff like that. That kept them going for a year or two again. Like, so, in fairness to them, they've been great.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose we can kind of touch on the Ulster Championship as well. We always would have came up against Monaghan 2013, 2015, and I suppose 2013 was obviously a very good year as well, Mark, and like you a very good panel of players, got to an All-Ireland final against Kerry. A serious run that summer as well, Mark, and I think it was Martin done a few weeks ago. Like, a very good summer of football in 2013 for Cavan, Mark.
Yeah, we had probably one or two of them sort of long runs. We had another one back, and I'm not sure it was 07 or that. We bet Donegal and Meath and that, and I think Cavan people really got out in numbers in both them years, and like as I said, they'll cling on to any sort of bit of a momentum that the Cavan get. In fairness, they did in 2013. We were long overdue it. I think some of them games we did get that little bit of luck and that sort of stuff when we got across the line. And Cavan need to be doing that, need to be playing, for longer and longer in the championship and getting more games and that for lads to get the experience and to, obviously to improve. You need to be playing lots more games. And I think playing the likes of, Kerry, getting Kerry and Croke Park was huge for us. And then I suppose that was a basis probably for the likes of Gerard and boys like that to see the first bit of experience at county senior level, playing the likes of Kerry and that, and get accustomed to it, and they did, and they never phased them sort of afterwards, and they went on to play, and that's exactly why I presume they go up against Donegal having no fear of Donegal or these so-called bigger teams in Ulster and that, like, too. So
yeah, and I always remember that day up in Celtic Park 2013 against Derry, and I think a last-minute winner, I think it was a DJ to get us over the line, Mark. And I suppose it makes it all work playing in them kind of days, Pipe Knot Day, Celtic Park. One of the better days Cavan have had in recent years, Mark.
Yeah, and the same thing, like I said, that little bit of luck or whatever, I think we came back and we drew it in normal time and went extra time, and then we came back and got the winner then again. So things like that, where you go to the well and drag something out just to get across the line, brought that team on huge leaps and bounds. And like that too, you had the sort of belief that you were going to go on and win these games then eventually. And we probably hadn't that for a couple of years before that. But yeah, it was huge. I remember I come on only with a couple of minutes to go. And then, at that stage I was only coming on for a couple of minutes in the game or anything like that. So, coming on thinking I had 10 minutes left in this game to try something. And next thing, all of a sudden we're into extra time. And all of a sudden you're getting 30, 40 minutes in a game. At huge intensity, on a really hot day there. And I remember going, yeah, I'm not quite sure. Was I ready for a full 60 minutes of that anyway? So I was delighted to get the minutes on board, but it was a huge game. And we had an awful lot of young lads playing that day that I know we threw on a few more in extra time and that. And they had played well as well. Like, so, that was a big learning curve, of course, for them. And the more games, obviously, that them young players got at championship level or pace was huge.
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And I suppose 2015 came knocking for your mark, and I think I sort of talked to you before, but what was the deciding factor for Mark McKeever to hang up the boots for Cavan?
Yeah, well, I suppose I've been very lucky down through the years between, for injuries and different stuff like that I sort of was kept in middling shape, that I didn't have any major injuries that held me out for too long. So nothing that kept me back. So I suppose them last couple of years, a lot of young lads coming into the team. I was obviously slowing up, and they seemed to be only getting quicker. That I was getting probably less and less, minutes, but that didn't really bother me. Because like that too, if you can add some little thing to get us across the line at the end of a game, if you're there to finish out a game for us or whatever it is, I didn't mind that. But then he ended up just picking up a bit of a knee injury and struggling with for a couple of weeks with that, and tried to play. And my last game actually would have been in London, and didn't get. I got playing a couple of minutes in it or whatever, and that was fine. But or it was against London. Yeah, I think it was in London, and I remember the knee at me as well. And then the next game, or the last game we would have played, was against Roscommon, and I couldn't even tug out for it. The knee was so sore and everything like that. I just had said, look, I'll say nothing. We'll see what happens after this. And, taking a couple of months back after, and thinking that, right, okay, well, sure, I can go back in. I'll shake this knee problem, and I'll go back in, and we'll give it another slog and see how we go. And then sort of thinking, if I do this for another year, my body's going to start breaking down another little bit. And I thought, you know what, if I give it a little bit of a rest, maybe ease off a little bit, then it might add a year or two to my club career. And I think I might as well do that now and try and get a couple of extra years out of, playing with Gowna, rather than try and struggle on with Cavan and probably make no impact and maybe do more damage than good. And at that stage, anyway, Cavan were sort of flying, and a lot of young players in there too. So I thought it was the right time to sort of leave the boys to it and let them at it. And look, it was a big change, obviously, straight away. But when the league started with them boys, now I knew that I'd made the right decision. That the want wasn't as much there as it probably should have been if I wanted to hang on there,
Yeah, I suppose I've kind of seen in recent weeks, like, the best players to probably never win Ulster Championship with Cavan. So I'm looking at the mirror, Ger Mark. So over the years, when you look back in your kind of Cavan career, were you kind of disappointed you didn't tag it on an Ulster Championship, Mark?
Oh yeah. No, when you see 2 years ago the boys got to an Ulster final, and to me that was a huge thing. I remember being down in Clones for it. And the occasion on and everything going on was huge, and everyone in Cavan was went berserk, nuts, mad for this. The real hunger for being back in Ulster final days, and I was felt very sad that we didn't get to experience that on our playing days. But it was great to see it, and look at obviously back again to an Ulster final this year or last year there, and having to win it, like, it was huge. And it's just a pity that we couldn't be there like we were, there in Clones the year before, and to see them win that, would have been unreal. I think, in fairness, them boys, there's a lot of boys on that deserve that more so than anyone else. The likes of Martin Riley, boys like that, they really slugged it out for years. Delighted to see them boys get over and all them win an Ulster medal, because they're definitely due it. Now, there was probably, as you say, players in between that time that never won one, but look, that's the way it goes. But delighted to see Cavan getting right back up there again now, and I hope they can continue that and stay at the top table and also for a couple of years again, and bring on a few more players again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose talk about bringing on players. You're obviously, well, not at the minute, nothing's going on, but you're involved with the under-20 management team, are you, Mark?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So what? Obviously, Damien Donoghue most approached you. So what have you made that? Are you looking forward to when things get back to normal, starting that role and developing the future Cavan football, Mark?
Yeah, I suppose I helped Damien out a couple of years ago with the county under-16s, and it sort of came out of the blue at that stage. I was still playing on that, but really enjoyed it. I said I'd give it a go, and really enjoyed it. And Damien gave me a call last year there just to see would it be interesting going back, and I said, look at it, I might as well see how it goes, and really enjoy that type of thing where you try and just sort of pass on a little bit of knowledge to younger lads. And to be honest with me, lads at that age, to see their improvement and see that they're, a lot of them boys that want to make it on to county plans are, they're really, really open to listen to what you have to say and stuff like that. So that's really important for them. And I hope, I enjoy doing it, and I hope to get back to do a little bit more of it if the things open up again a little bit, because, as we are, it's a little bit, it's a bit of a hard to sort of sit back and wait and think what could be and what you might do and this and that. So, yeah, you'd be just mad to get back into helping them a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we wish you the best of luck with it, and I suppose we can touch on Cavan's Ulster 2020 success, and we'll start with you, Ger. What did you make of it all? Great times for the county. Yeah,
fantastic. Just look at. It's a pity, I suppose. Mark says you see 97 there, and we were all running onto the field after it. It's look, if that's the only downer on it, that those families weren't allowed to it there, and that is the big blow up of the whole lot. But listen, it's fantastic for Cavan. If crowds do start to get back in, you know what I mean, I think it'll be a different ballgame for everyone involved. I'd say Tyrone and Donegal are going to be out for blood this year, like the rest of Ulster. But to be honest, they'll be the chasing lads I'll be looking out for this year now, and I'm sure they have revenge in their mind. So this will really test that Cavan team. Definitely good enough to hold on to that Ulster title. But as I say, Donegal and Tyrone will be gunning for them. So it'll be hopefully now the GA hopefully they can get their act together now, and the Ulster Championship hits home, because everyone is just dying to see a good game of football on the television, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that Cavan team test themselves against the Tyrones and the Donegals, and see are they as good as I think they are.
Yeah, I suppose even kind of touching on it as well, like Ger, we know Darren McCready, Conor Moyne, and kind of key players like that. I know Killian Clark came back into it, but what maybe impressed you in the Ulster Championship, the route we took, and I suppose to beat that all-conquering Donegal team, Ger?
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, and I'd say if a lot of Cavan people are honest, going into the Ulster final, we're kind of going, I wonder, can we get over the line? You know what I mean? To see what he done that day, absolutely phenomenal. Our own clubman here, Connor, got the goal, you know what I mean? So he's up there with Gio now at the minute. But listen, it's I think that's young McVitie. He is a serious loss. I've seen him at club level. I think he's just a fantastic player. I think he'd be a great attribute if we can get him back involved. I think he's still away travelling. But look at just the way he works so hard, I suppose. That's the main thing with me. Like you see there's even Killian Brady, like that cut and thrust that he shows. He never give up. Like that's his attitude, I suppose. It stifles around that team. It's everywhere, I see even I'll be talking to Ushin, a wee bit cousin of mine here, it's a never say die attitude, and they're fighting tooth and nail, each one of them, for a place in the team. So I suppose maybe another years that might have been there. It's there now, you know what I mean? And after an Ulster title, it will be dog to keep the place. So that's impressed me most about them, the fighting spirit. And I suppose everyone in Cavan realises now that they are, you know what I mean? That's everyone on that panel will fight for them, you know, like.
Yeah, I suppose Mickey Graham as well. He's the head of it all, Ger, and you obviously played with Mickey Graham, and you know he's a good man to have in charge there.
Yeah, look, he's fantastic. You know, him and they're there, the two of them together. You know, obviously knock each other off each other well. But I suppose I would have been a couple of years ago there. I was over the Mullinlough, the women's team, and Mickey was over the Mullinlough, the fellas team, I suppose, at the time. And sure, the country knows the success he had there. But like, if a Sunday morning, I used to train the women there, so we kind of walk around. You know, Mullinlough is a small place, only the one field. Well, you've a smaller training field now, but just the main field there. We'd organise ourselves around when they'd be training, you know, so we try and get in maybe an hour before them, get our training done. But, you know, a few Sunday mornings there, I'd hang around to watch them training after. Like, you know, I suppose Mickey, like Eamonn Coleman, from what I could see, had a great way with them. He had an absolutely fantastic way with them. Like, every man under the age of 40 in Mullinlough that seemed to be out training, like, used to just maybe out, you'd be loosening out after a game. You'd see them, they would line from one wing of the field to the other wing of the field. Yeah. You know, the halfway line, and they just jog out, and the amount of lads out there, you know what I mean? And every shape and size, everyone was out, and their trainings looked enjoyable, everyone looked to have a bit of crack, you know what I mean? And I suppose when you're enjoying football and enjoying a bit of crack, you know what I mean, playing football, you know, it comes easier to you and you enjoy it more. And Mickey, I suppose, seems to bring that in abundance, and any county football you're talking about him, any interview you read about them, that's what they all say, like, you know, it's, you know, he's a great way about him, you know.
Yeah, definitely. He's a gentleman of the highest degree. And I suppose Mark Cavan's Ulster 2020 success, what was your opinion on it all?
Yeah, look, it was success from the beginning. Obviously, the building and getting across Monaghan and that, you know, brought them on an awful lot, and then coming back against Down, huge game as well. Like, I think, you know, character building sort of stuff gone on all year, and it only led, and just they thrived on that. They seemed to just, you know, the backs were in the wall several times. They seem to just come out fighting, you know, and they're, as Gerald said, their spirit and that the whole way through. Like, you could say, you know, they should have been beaten a couple of games, and that's them gone. They'll never come back from this. And, you know, they just seem to thrive on that and really go back at teams. And it was a joy to watch. In fairness, it was back to the days of, you know, they just went for it and really looked like they're enjoying the football and stuff too. Like, and I'm sure, look, they've put in serious effort and that training wise, and that they couldn't do what they done on the field if they weren't in great shape, but they all seem to be enjoying it and obviously training hard and stuff. So, you know, and I think like that too, like as you said, Mickey Graham seems to have that thing about him that, you know, he's a very good manager and that, and look, they all seem to want to do the very best for him and that. Look, but it's working so far, and I think, in fairness, you know, anything, didn't matter what way they done it, getting across the line, getting to an Ulster final. I'm sure you told them on Ulster final day, you know, just get across this line. It doesn't matter if it's 1-0, it didn't matter one bit. They just done enough to do that. So I think that it was a delight to see them, and it was great that we got to watch games on TV at least. We got to see all them games, because it would be a sad state of affairs if we didn't. But look, I'm sure them boys don't care. They have an Ulster medal in their back pocket. It didn't matter what way it came. But I'm sure they'll be glad to see a couple of supporters back out to help them this year. Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember, I think we were doing a bit about the Dublin game, and unfortunately my prediction couldn't have been any more wrong. Got very excited. But what was the verdict on the Dublin game, Mark? And I suppose the current state of affairs, that Dublin team, it's not bad. Yeah,
look, to be honest, it was Dublin had just grind you down. That's what they have done, and that's what they did to Cavan as well. Honestly, I think Cavan, you know, for their, you know, get across the line in those finals was great, and then to get up to play against Dublin, I think they really went for Dublin. They really threw it at them and that. And you know, some teams would have maybe said, "Oh, well, sure, look, we'll try and keep it respectable and different stuff like that." I think they really had a good cut and caused Dublin problems for large periods of that game as well. Like, threw together a couple of great moves and stuff. So, look, we need that for experience. You need to be playing these teams. You need to be playing in Croke Park and places like that as well. Like, so, you know, it's only another building block for them. I'm sure they're going to take massive amount of positives from them games as well. And so, that's great too.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I suppose, Gerald, I'll ask you first. Over the years, who would have been the best player you played with and against over the years?
Is that me or Mark?
Ger, yeah.
Best player I played with.
He's beside you.
No, I'll allow you to get this one right, Jack. You're all right.
No, Mark, I tell you what, I nearly Mark. Jeez, that is hard. That is hard. It's tough.
This doesn't happen too often, John. Jack would never stop.
Sure, he wouldn't be in the profession he is in now if he wasn't.
I'd say Francie Value, only he jumped on the ground like a little girl that day and got poor old Pierce McKenna sent off. So I'm not going to name him. Jeez, I suppose, I don't know, when you play, I suppose every match used to go to a club football, you'd know who'd be coming towards it. Like, you'd know every day. I suppose lads to stick out in my mind. There's a Shane Leddy fella from Lacken. Shane Leddy, I don't think he ever scored in Shane Leddy. Your own club man, Gary McDonald's as well. He used to give me a torrid time of it as well. Them two lads stick in my mind as well. Stick in my mind big time. But so just between them two lads, that was probably the toughest cornerbacks I ever came across, really. But there's lots more. Shawnee Smith from Mullahorn as well. But let's see, best player. Excuse Mark, you get shot around Gowna for this, you know that.
Go on.
Jeez, I don't know. I can't look at it. It's hard to say. Like you look at Derek McCabe, you see him doing things at training with the ball. You see his drive, you have it. You see Bernard Morris, the workhorse he was, the way he could go up for balls and catch them, the strength of him. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go with Donald Keoghan putting me out of the Imperial of a Saturday night. That's just clears everything up.
That's the best answer of any.
That's the biggest influence in your career, is it?
Yeah.
But remember Mark, Eamonn Coleman calling up to the house here a couple of months. Jeez, myself and Damien done a few rips. Remember, Jason Coleman used to train at 7:30, and the next thing I could hear him outside the house roaring, "Get out, get out!" I mean, my poor old mother and my father, God be good to me father, told him, no, he never came home last night. And me and Damien Fitch upstairs going, "Oh, jeez, he's going to kill us." Do you remember that? Like the train.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
I'll put it on to Mark now. Mark, your best player.
That's the best answer.
Don't name me, Mark.
That's the best answer.
I'm very surprised. I'm very surprised that you don't have an answer. Jeff always has an answer.
Yeah. Right, okay. The last thing I'll say to you, Jer, right? If you had to name one best player you played with against, name one.
Well, I tell you, I suppose one performance that sticks out in my mind. Do you remember that 2001 Ulster under-21 final, Mark, against Tyrone?
Yeah.
I remember Owen Mulligan was playing that day. Do you remember him that day?
Yeah, very good, yeah.
I remember it just stick out in my head. The Owen Mulligan that day, I suppose we were coming into an Ulster under-21. I think, was it the foot and mouth or something? The whole thing it kept getting put off. Yeah. And it eventually came around, and we had a really good team. Like with Enda King, lads like this. Michael Brides, I think, was after breaking his leg that year. He got a bad break just before it. Colm Hannon, these lads. Michael Hannon was playing, but Owen Mulligan that day, I remember him coming out for balls, winning them, turning left and right, selling dummies. I remember thinking to myself, this fella's the real deal. And sure enough, he was the real deal. Like the tricks he'd have, that turn he had left or right, he was in all action, and that's to me.
Kept throwing in that final. Like we had them beat 3 or 4 times that day, and he just kept dragging them back into it, and then ended up they beat us then by a point or two. But I think he could have scored something like 6 or 7 points in the final. just kept dragging them back out of it. We went 2 or 3 points up, and he just kept dragging them back into it.
Yeah,
very good.
No. So I'd probably go with Owen Mulligan. You know, to say probably the best player I played against. Yeah, and look, I can't name anyone else because I would be absolutely shot in Gowna.
That's a good answer. That's a
Mark, you go quick.
I have no idea after you talking about all this now. So.
If you don't name Morris, he'll kill you.
Yeah. I don't. To be honest, there's had the joy of playing with so many good players down through the years, especially at club level. We've had a couple of very good players. I suppose one player that probably didn't get to finish out his career and was awesome at the time, and probably would have went on to be, in my opinion, to be an all-star, or that would have been Patrick Brady. He was the same age as me, and that he ended up playing, I think 2007. He got injured in a quarter-final or semi-final, and he hadn't really played football since that. And there was a huge, we lost him, and then we lost Dermot in the 07 final, only a couple of minutes on. I think bar them 2 injuries or that, getting across the line in 2007, Gowna might look like a different sort of thing. And then we might have hung on for maybe 3 years or 2 longer, or maybe won another 1 or 2 at that stage. So the likes of Patrick Brady would be a huge one. Serious talent, had everything, best fielder of the ball I ever seen, and serious for such a big man, so strong and very, very skillful too. Probably one of the best players I've played football with, and that's lucky enough that he was with my own club. And best player I played against, lots of them. I actually, my first year, I played a McKenna Cup, could be semi-final or something. And we played Tyrone, and I was marking. I think I was marking Gormley. Was it marking Gormley? It was after marking. So I don't know, I'm not sure which player I'm marking for about 50 something minutes of the game, and had done well. Obviously, my first year. Was very impressed, trying to staying on the field for that length of time myself, and then doing reasonably well, sort of marking a Tyrone man. I was happy enough with it, and then O'Neill came on, and Stephen O'Neill, and within I think about 4 minutes he had scored 4 points on me. Like I hadn't held the man scoreless for the whole game. So Stephen O'Neill literally was just serious. I remember I went to try and block him the first time, so I rushed in on him, and he dummied me and just kicked the ball over the bar with his other foot. So I stood off him the next time, and he just kicked the ball over the bar. So literally nothing you could do. And I remember that was the first time, at sort of senior county level, that I realised that such a gap was there, and what sort of level you had to get to hold your own at that level. So I suppose he was the first one that I would have said, no, that's just top class.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark McKeever Ger Pearson, thanks a million for joining me on the JMac Podcast this week. Of course, this podcast is sponsored by Orga Retrowear.com. Check the website there for all the retro gear needs. Mark, Ger, enjoy the sun, have a good one, and up Cavan and Gowna.
Mark.
Good luck.
Good luck.